in just 4 years, more or less. You guys just announced the Series C round, $100 million at a $1.1 billion valuation.
I'm always of the belief that we have to keep building. The day we stop building is the day we die. Product intuition is always going to be your first step. Data and experimentation are just iterations or optimizations on your first step. It's only a matter of time until these agents that are helping you build these products could also optimize those products. It's only a matter of time until you get like self-healing, self-optimizing products. It's going to empower product managers. A lot of people sound like, okay, well, is a product management role dead because of all of that stuff? Because I believe like, no, it's actually like making the product managers more powerful. You cannot hit global maxima by just data or iteration. You need those leaps of product intuition to get you to the next level where you can continue to like iterate and get better.
Hey everyone, this is Carlos. I am the CEO at Product School, and today I'm here with another CEO. His name is Vijaye Raji, CEO at StatSig. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Carlos.
Vijay, I've been following your company, your product, for quite some time. It's pretty impressive. In just 4 years, more or less, right? You guys just announced the Series C round, $100 million at a $1.1 billion valuation.
Yeah, we just did announce it. Yeah, we started about 4.5 years ago. Actually, like 4 years and a few months, right in the middle of the pandemic.
So, depends on how you count it, right? It's never a good time, but it's also always a good time to start something. But like, what was kind of the rationale for you to start a company right after the pandemic?
Oh, I think the pandemic just happened to happen during the time we decided to go start the company. And the idea of starting my own company has been germinating for a few years before I left my previous company, which was Facebook, and then started StatSig. It just so happened that the pandemic was happening at that time, and that didn't stop us. In fact, like it actually got us together a little bit more, because I remember we were meeting in the parks because it has to be outside the parks, and then when we decided we're going to like start a company, we said like, oh, we need to get in together in office. How are we going to like circumvent the CDC kind of like requirements of like not having people indoors? So those are kind of like the initial set of problems we had to solve in order to get this company going. But it was fun.
So you spent 10 years at Facebook. I see you had different roles. The latest one was a VP and head of entertainment. What are the products that you were building there?
Yeah, as the head of entertainment, anything that is not related to utility or friends social graph, where you draw entertainment from Facebook, whether you're watching videos or listening to music, whether you're playing games or watching other people play games, listening to podcasts or live streaming, all of those was part of entertainment. And so I was taking care of that part of the business. Whether it is going and getting more content from content producers or supporting creators in whether they're live streaming or creating shorts, those are the kinds of things. In fact, like the first version of Reels called Lasso was part of the entertainment org.
That's actually very cool. And I've been following the product space almost, I would say, since the beginning. When I started my company, product management wasn't really a thing, or it wasn't that cool. And the product tech space didn't really exist. There were so many different tools, mostly created for marketers, designers, engineers, data teams, but the product persona wasn't really that relevant. And now I'm seeing this whole category of tools emerging where there are specific tools just created for product teams first and foremost. And I see you started with experimentation. That was kind of the angle. I know Facebook is notorious for building instead of buying. So I just want to learn more about kind of your rationale, what you learned when you were using those type of experimentation tools to then eventually build your own for other companies.
Yeah. Okay. So I got to take you back about 15 years ago when I first joined Facebook, when Facebook was still a startup. They hadn't gotten IPO. I joined when the company was about 1,200 people or so, of which about 500 were engineers. So this was, to me, eye-opening because when I saw how products were built at Facebook, it was like completely different than what I was used to. Every day code was shipped and every code that was written was actually instrumented, and product managers were watching the metrics on a daily basis. They were looking at how the product was performing, how people were using the products, and deriving a lot of this product sense from that. And so to me, all of that felt like this is a brand new way of building products. And so I learned quite a bit in the early years of me at Facebook. And you kind of could create this appreciation for the tools that enable this kind of product development, which I think tools shape culture. So that part was very, very clear, because the sets of tools that people invested in at building at Facebook actually shaped the culture of product building at Facebook. So to me, it became very clear that this is where product development is going to go. This is where product managers this is how product managers are going to come up with ideas and iterate on their products. And so building StatSig, which is a set of tools that enable product teams to build products and derive lots of data from it, and then make even more data-driven decisions, it was a no-brainer. So let's just go build those tools. That's kind of like the impetus behind leaving behind Facebook and starting StatSig.
So experimentation was the first tool or use case for you, right? And that's another evolution that I've seen in product tech. A lot of these tools that started even before your time at StatSig, they start with one use case: analytics, experimentation, road mapping, prototyping. And now we're seeing a conversion of those use cases into all-in-one platform. So I want to learn more about your own evolution from a product to a multi-product strategy.
Yeah, it's funny because when I started the company, the vision was to build everything that product teams will need, whether it is, feature management, data ingestion, cleaning the data, and then analytics and visualization, experiments, and then insights and intelligence. Like the whole thing felt such a compelling thing to go build everything together. And then that's what we did. In the first 8 months or so, we were kind of like, let's just build everything. And most people that started startups will quickly tell you that it's a bad idea, because you can have a vision, you can have a platform idea, but people, when they want to use your product, they come in with one specific problem, and you better solve that problem before they would even consider you. And then you have to be the best in the industry for that particular problem in order for people to actually take out their wallet and give you some money. So that was a hard-learned lesson for me, 6 to 8 months time frame. And then I decided, well, let's just focus on one thing and one thing only, and that was experimentation. So our product started with the vision of everything, build everything, and then we pivoted to let's just build experimentation, because there's a chance for us to be the number one in the industry for experimentation. So let's focus on that. And then once we had that out, and once we started getting traction on the experimentation product, then it was easy for us to build the adjacencies. Okay, well, now that we have experimentation, can we offer feature flagging to all of our customers that already use experimentation? And then after that, can we offer product analytics for all the customers that use experimentation? So that's how we've expanded our platform, kind of trying to go back to the original vision of build everything.
Yeah, and I want to kind of dig a little deeper into the different dimensions that go into going multi-product. One of them is, if you will, product market fit, or what is the moment or set of moments that made you realize, okay, now we are kind of ready. You never fully know, but now we can take more time and investment into expanding our portfolio while also reinforcing our core.
If you ask me, I still don't know. I don't think I'll ever feel we have hit product market fit. I think it's kind of we have traction, and I think we have enough depth in the products that we have that is helping us sell these products. And then I'm always of the belief that we have to keep building. The day we stop building is the day we die. And so if you take that kind of a position where we need to keep building, I'm going to look for any kind of opportunity to expand on what is already working. And so if I'm getting customers using our one product, then I'm always going to be going back to them and say, what other products are you using? What other things could we build to make it easier for you? what other tools could we displace and potentially make, a consolidation effort to save you some cost as well. So building in vacuum is very, very hard. And so anytime or any chance I can get to have someone tell me what they care about or what they need, it's so easy.
Also, the irony is that you're building an experimentation product, right? So you better experiment with yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of those things. It's kind of like a value, cultural value inside StatSig. So it is important for us to actually live it, because not just preaching.
One of the things that I've also seen in my experience building products myself, but also partnering with other founders, is that sometimes users that try to hack your own product, and that's a really strong signal, right? When you see people kind of bending the limits of your own product to get to a different use case, that there's something there.
Then that gives you such high signal of they have made the product to bend to their will. So let's just actually go and make it easy for them. I love it.
The other dimension I want to touch on here is go-to-market. I researched your product, and it seems like you guys are serving both large enterprises, like Microsoft, and as well as fast-growing startups like Notion.
Yeah.
And those companies cannot be more different. So from a go-to-market perspective, how are you able to get into a company that maybe has no experimentation tools, so you are literally the first mover, versus trying to replace a product that is already there?
Yeah, our first hypothesis, if I remember correctly, was that something like StatSig is only valuable for Series A, maybe B and C companies. The moment you get to late stage startups or even large companies, the hypothesis that I had was that they would already invested in these tools internally, and so it's very hard to replace an internally built tool. And so we kind of originally focused only on the smaller companies. But over time, I also realized that that's not true. Even large companies have poorly put together set of tools that they use, but it's not best in class. And this is the reason why we're able to go and compete against even homegrown tools. And then potentially also when you talk to these companies, they have a large team that is maintaining these products, and it's not necessarily their core strength. And so when we can offer something that has been built over 4 years with 50 engineers that are only focused on this, the stats engine, these tools are obviously better than most of the ingrown, homegrown tools. And that's why we've started expanding into larger companies as well, which is great for us, for the business.
Yeah, I think the hidden cost that goes into doing that for large enterprises that have already something is that you can't just switch a button, right? So I can imagine there's a lot of implementation that goes into that.
Yep.
How do you go about facilitating that, right? So they don't lose any momentum.
Yeah, I think we have, in working with thousands of companies, we have learned quite a few combinations of systems out there, right? Every company has a unique set of infrastructure setup or integrations that we want to work with in order to not lose a beat, so continue the momentum without actually bringing down the system. And so we built a lot early days to live everything, have StatSig live side by side with existing tools, and then start providing value for smaller teams, one team. And then when that team sees value, they become evangelists, and then they go and do all the migration internally. To us, that's very important, because if you start the conversation with you having to boil the ocean, and that's actually a no, it won't even go anywhere. So we need to actually provide a smooth, slow introduction of StatSig into any given system. And my experience has been that the larger the company, the more systems that are unique, and the older the company, the more legacy they have.
I mean, I live this as well in my work. A lot of our clients are also large companies, not in high tech. And the name sounds amazing because you think, oh my God, we're going to be able to create this massive partnership. But sometimes you have to start really, really small with a team of 10 that is living in their own bubble and kind of use that as a building block to then expand the account.
Yeah, No, exactly. I think building a internal evangelist is such an important aspect of like product-led growth, where teams internally in a large company are going and spreading the word. They would go to another team. There's mobility. Somebody will go from one team to another team, and then they'll talk about like, oh, you should bring StatSig along. Those are the kinds of things that have helped us expand once we land.
Let's talk about that product-led growth motion. Like, what tells you that a specific account is ready for a larger plan?
Lots of once somebody has integrated StatSig, we can see usage. So one of the things that we have maintained from day one is we're not seat-based pricing. Once you get StatSig, anyone inside the company can use StatSig without having to buy additional licenses, and that's an important element of product-led growth. So we can actually see weekly active users from the company. We can see how many product teams are using within a company. We can also see like how many experiments people are running, and our goal is to increase the number of experiments that people run, because we believe experimentation is actually correlated to velocity. And then so we keep track of all those metrics. And so there are very critical moments in time when there's step functions that happen. And anytime that happens, it's a very clear indication that somebody else within the company has started using StatSig. And so that's how we keep track of the opportunities to expand.
So if you have an unlimited seat pricing model, what are the triggers that define the different tiers?
So we are usage based, and so once you like say get access to StatSig, you can use any product. We don't block you from using one product or the other. Everything is available for a company that contracts with us. And so our goal from a product-led growth is to encourage people to use more products so you get more value out of it. So for example, we have like a customer that is contracted us for experimentation, but they're also using feature flags. They're also using product analytics. And so our pricing, because it's usage based, the more you use, the more you draw down on your the price to whatever contracted volume is. And so to us, when you are tracking much higher than what you contracted, then that's a good trigger for us to go have that conversation. We also have tracks. We track metrics around how many people are multi-product users, 2 or more products, and then we also track 3 or more products. And so those are also pretty good triggers where we want to keep increasing that percentage. And when some company is using 3 products, that's a good way to go have that conversation.
It becomes a no-brainer, right? For the decision maker to want to have a conversation on how they can consolidate.
Exactly. I mean, it's generally what happens is because we are completely organically growing once you have inside, we kind of see all these use cases, when people use product analytics, and then they also have contracts with other analytics vendors. It's a conversation to save costs.
So from an org design perspective, as you think about structuring team to expand your own product portfolio, how do you go about protecting those 0 to 1 experiments as well as allowing for the more mature products to continue developing?
Yeah, it's to me, I think I said earlier, the day we stop building is the day we die. And so we need to keep investing in newer areas. And structurally, we have, say, for example, 75% of our time and effort goes into maintaining the core of the business. And then 25% is always about exploration. And so exploration is something where I believe in quickly validating a new idea. Success is either the idea gets traction or the idea is killed. Those 2 things are considered success. What's not success is mediocrity, where you kind of have something just staying slowly limping along. That's not success. And so when I have these teams that are going and exploring various different ideas, and one of them comes back and okay, well, this is gaining traction, then you put the scale team on top of that, and then they go and scale that product, and that becomes part of the course. That becomes part of the 75% investment. So then we go free up that team to go explore something new. And so I do think that maintaining that kind of a balance, it could be 75%, 25%, it could be 80%, 20%, depending on what new ideas that we have. But maintaining that exploration is something that I care a lot about. I think it's very important.
I'm curious about this approach because in the startup world, especially when the company is smaller, there's there's nothing to discuss. There's one product, everybody's building it. As you start expanding the portfolio, I've seen the approach of we're still going to be focused on the entire portfolio and just allocating time for the different initiatives. But I've also seen the creation of tiger teams or 0 to 1 teams that just focus exclusively on that new experiment, while others are mostly focused on the core. So why did you go about your own decision, and what are the trade-offs there?
Yeah, actually, it's not very different from like a tiger team, because at the end of the day, there are people that are really, really good at like these explorations. And then there are people that are really, really good at like taking something that's hitting traction and then hitting scale. You just got to like know who wants to go build what. And another thing that we do at StatSig is like we leverage people's strengths. We care a lot about like, what strengths people have, and then find opportunities to leverage those strengths versus like focusing on gaps and things like that. So you would see oftentimes, the same set of people that are going off and like exploring new ideas, and then same set of people that are taking those ideas and then scaling it, and that's pretty common, and that's nothing wrong with that. But plus, you also, as the company grows, you get more folks. So when I say 75% or 25%, the absolute size of that 75% is actually growing, because now you have more product teams or the larger product teams, more engineers, more product managers, more data scientists that can like take on more within that 25%, 75% bucket. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. And you still code, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I gotta.
So I
It's
read
my,
something. You're still the only website engineer for your own statsig.com domain.
Yes, if you go to www.statsig.com, that's all me. I take pride in it because number one, it kind of like, it's exactly what we talk about our company outside. So it's like, in a way, I kind of like gatekeep what our brand is. But it's also like really cool because, I grew up as an engineer. And so I like to keep in touch with all the coding tools. Like, I try out all these different AI agents and AI coding tools. It gives me an opportunity to be plugged in. And I usually code at night before going to bed, and kind of like also makes me feel like I did something really cool before I went to bed.
Well, you mentioned AI, so I need to pull on that front. I mean, as I look at your own product or portfolio of products, it's a lot of AI infused into that. So
Yep.
I'm curious to know, like, what are those specific capabilities that now you are able to deliver to customers?
So when I think about AI, there's like 3, maybe 4 different angles that we approach AI. One is, can we continue to provide the best-in-class tools for all the AI producers and AI consumers? And so if you look at like, the customers that we support, there's a lot of foundational model producers that we support, all the top ones. Then if you look at like people that consume AI, the digital natives that are like now the early adopters of AI, we support all of them. So providing the right set of tools for people to evaluate what models to use, what prompt to use, what token length, latency, cost profile to use. All of those things people care a lot about. And so we provide the tools to validate those. And then there's an application of AI internally, which is, can we use AI to provide value for our customers when they come to our console? So whether it is like, taking the knowledge bank of all of the experiments that we run and then providing some suggestions on like what metrics to use for the next experiment, or being able to like search through literature across all the experiments and the metrics and the people that ran those experiments and all of that. So we just like use AI to make it significantly better, the experience of using StatSig. And the last one is, how can we help companies like say do prompt evaluations and take all the data that people have like, that we've collected on the product to use offline evaluation of like new models or new prompts or new fine-tuned models, any of those things. So we kind of like provide newer products that help any of these folks that are applying AI in their products to do evaluations. One of the things that we're recently investing in is coding. So how can people use StatSig to aid in building new products. And so, which is like, we have an MCP server that allows you to like, actually create a feature flag for any new code that you generate using agents, or, tools like Cursor or Windsurf, and things like that. So I think I would bucket all of our AI investments into these 4 buckets.
And then you mentioned the MCP server. As you think about integrations, like I remember when a lot of SaaS companies start, they always put their logo in the middle, and then they said, everybody connects with us. We're at the center of your company.
Yeah.
Now with MCP, it's kind of true, right? Because you don't always have to build those endpoints to ensure that data flows. So how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, there is a lot of value when you're able to take data from how your product is performing in production and tie it back to what you need to build next. And so one of the very simple examples I'll tell you is, say, imagine you wrote some code using all the AI tools, and then you pushed it. StatSig can tell you whether that newly pushed code is increasing your crash rate or error rate. And if it is, it can come back and tell you, here's the line of code that is actually like, crashing. So potentially you could like say, okay, I'm going to fix this based on like the knowledge that StatSig gave me in order to like go and put a PR, again, using all the AI coding tools, which is, to me, like super powerful. It completes that loop pretty cleanly. And then we also now have the ability for MCP. Like one of the things that anytime we talk to a feature flag consumer is like, I have a bunch of these stale flags. These flags are dead, but I now have to do a lot of cleanup. With an MCP server integrated into your IDE, you can literally say like, okay, well, find out all the stale flags that I have. And then StatSig will tell you all the stale flags, and then you can go clean it all up. So makes it extremely easy to like, maintain code and also like make the code better.
And how do you think about the source of truth, meaning CDP, right? Like all of these companies have been thinking that you need a place where you're centralizing this data ingestion, and then from there, you are serving the data in different ways. So now, technically, if you have MCPs that are allowing the data to flow, and you can automatically massage the data the way you need on the kind of client side, like what's the point of a CDP?
Okay, there's 2 things, right? One is source of truth. You're never going to get rid of the need for a source of truth. Whether that source of truth is supplied by CDP or another tool is up for debate, right? For example, one of the things that we invested heavily in is warehouses, because we noticed that more and more companies are starting to build on top of warehouses. When you bring all of your data into a warehouse, and that becomes your source of truth, and which means that now your tools that you're using should also operate on top of a warehouse. It doesn't make sense to like take data from a warehouse and then fragment it or send it over to another tool and then have it operate like on a different plane. And so more and more we see consolidation of source of truth happening in the warehouse. I think in a world where the warehouse is effective enough to be the source of truth for all data, whether it is product data, revenue data, business data, infrastructure data, when you can bring all of that into a warehouse, now that becomes powerful. You don't need a CDP at that point. And so it kind of like obviates the need for one of those tools. But we're pretty far ways in getting there, but I think that's kind of like where the world is headed.
And I know we've been talking a lot about data and experimentation. It's almost impossible to get to 100% accuracy. And probably if you get there, it's probably too late. So how do you personally go about balancing all of this information with your own intuition so you can also execute faster?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is a great question, because oftentimes when people talk, when they hear me talk about like, data is important, experimentation is important, you have to make decisions based on data, they think I don't care about product intuition, but that nothing could be farther from the truth, because product intuition is always going to be your first step. Data and experimentation are just iterations or optimizations on your first step. So I have this story where, this example of like, there's a famous saying that was attributed to Henry Ford, which is actually not true, but where it goes like, if I'd asked the people what they needed, I would have gotten faster horses, not a car. So if you think about like what happened from the horses to a car, that is intuition. That's a leap. It's not an evolution, it's a revolution. And when that happens, from 1914 or whatever the time that cars came to now, cars have evolved so much, and that's all iteration. And so to me, those leaps have to happen through product intuition on the product, and then iteration or optimization will happen through data. Those two things have to coexist. You cannot hit global maxima by just data or iteration. You need those leaps of product intuition to get you to the next level where you can continue to like iterate and get better.
I love that. I read an article, I think it was in HBR, about that difference between revolution and evolution, and how sometimes the founder or the CEO has to make those gut calls, because otherwise you can just always prove everything. And that also puts people in a certain mind frame. And then from there, obviously, you can iterate. But I resonate with that because sometimes I've made those decisions. I've also been wrong. But I like the other thing you said about ultimately you need to get to that answer fast. It can be right or it can be wrong, but it cannot be a long maybe.
Yes, absolutely. To me, when you get your intuition right and you validated it, there is so much that you'll leave behind if you don't continue to optimize it. So there's a real clear need for this iteration once you reach a certain point where it's actually successful. But you also have to, one of the things that I learned at Facebook is humility. When you come into a room and you're like, I know exactly what people want, and then you test it and you realize that, like, actually that's not what people want. And that kind of like, you learn humility through data. So to me, the products that we build today have become so complex. We're building abstractions on top of abstractions that it'll be kind of hubris for one person to say, like, I understand all the ways in which this product is going to behave across the scale that we're going to deploy. So data will play a very important role in validating your intuition and continuing to optimize it.
Well, I want to relate this back to you as a way to wrap up this interview. I'm looking at your website right now, and I see all these different products that make sense. I would call them evolution, if you will. You have experimentation with feature flags, with session replay, with product analytics. Okay, that all makes sense to me. What's next in terms of revolution for you? How do you see your product kind of taking the next big leap?
Yeah, so when we started the company, we didn't really anticipate the AI wave. The way in which the entire AI just came into the scene and like started taking over all of the conversations, we found ourselves in the position to actually offer value to all the AI consumers. And now we're like starting to really think about how do we evolve our product using AI, kind of like make those leaps. It's not just an adjacency play. It's actually like, because we have so many customers, because we have so much data for each one of those customers, what additional value could we give to those customers, whether in the form of like helping them build better products, whether in the form of like helping them understand their products usage, and then even potentially even like creating synthetic users that will help them get sentiment value or even a lot more statistical power than what they currently have. So those are the ways in which we are investing in, but stay tuned. There's a lot.
I can see that. And I mean, speaking from experience, when the first wave of product tech started, it would still require some technical knowledge. You need to know some SQL, some coding, some of this in order to make the most out of the product. And then we saw the evolution with no code or even low code, allowing like non-technical users be more self-sufficient. I think with this new wave of AI, it's not just being more self-sufficient, it's really being able to replace other functions and like be on steroids. So like I think now a leap for a lot of these people is like, how can they be part of that revolution? Because you can be building all of this powerful technology, but how do you increase the adoption so someone can maximize the value of your product?
I do think that AI is like lowering the barrier for people to like take ideas and then turn that into implementation and even a product. And people can go from like this end to end from just an idea to a running product. And it's only a matter of time until these agents that are helping you build these products could also optimize those products. So it's only a matter of time until you get like self-healing, self-optimizing products. And in order to do that, you need to have that kind of like this observability loop where I have a prompt, I have this application that is now running on the server, and now I'm able to observe that application and then take that the data that we get out of the observation and then tying it back to like, okay, can I improve the product? Can I make the product better? If there are crashes happening, can I actually fix those crashes? And you don't need to be like a senior developer or an engineer to be able to do that. The barrier is like lowering day by day. So I'm like super excited for like the concepts that we can like just build in that world. And I also think like, it's going to empower product managers. A lot of people sound like, okay, well, is a product management role dead because of all of that stuff? Because I believe like, no, it's actually like making the product managers more powerful. It gives them tools to go validate things without having to wait. There's a lot of things that people can do to build a conviction that you need, and then go and build it. So anyways, I do think that there's a lot that is happening that is to be excited about.
Well, thank you so much for your time, for unpacking your vision and how you're thinking about building products. Which is kind of ironic in a way. You're building products for product people. That's why I like to have you here.
Thanks, Carlos. That was a good conversation. Thanks for having me.